Thank you. Right. Yes, brother, you can proceed.
Okay. Yeah, greetings, comrades. Welcome once again to our Saturday class for coaches and study group. It's always a pleasure to have you around. So, yeah, we'll start this section with the current affairs, especially current news across the continent, and link the news towards the unification, liberation, and development of Africa. Whether how do you see what's going on in your area? Is it advancing the unification or not? And that's basically what we did in our first session. Then we will have a brief presentation, which is also informing us of what's going on in the continent in terms of economic activities that are going on in the continent. Then after that, also we'll also be sharing our thinking in regards to that as well. So basically, that's what we are looking forward to for today. So welcome once again, Sister Mayra, Brother Raspala, Brother Kwame, and other comrades will be watching this recording, and those will be joining us later. So we can start off with Brother Raspala from South Africa. Greetings, comrades. How are you?
Son of the League. Yes, my Lord. I'm good. I'm good. I hope everyone is good also here. Yeah, my brother. Huh? Sorry?
What's the big issue in South Africa currently?
Hey, my brother, can you just give me a moment? I'm just finishing preparing food for my queen here, and then I can answer. Ne?
Sister, anything, any update this week from Uganda?
No, still the same as last week. Thank you.
Okay. Now, from Kenya, basically, I will say that there have been around 2 issues that have been on the limelight today, 3 of them. One is the preparation for Raila Odinga to launch his official campaign for African Union Commission seat that will be launched on 27th by the President of Kenya. But of course, there's another person who also applied like the same way I applied, and he was never given a response from US in Kenya. It's called Orina, and he has taken the government to court and stopping the bid of Raila Odinga, claiming or saying that the government did not respond to his letter, that he expressed his interest to also run for the same position, and therefore it is unfair practice for the government to endorse Raila Odinga while other candidates also applied, and the government never gave response to that. So we are waiting to see what court will say about that. But of course, Raila Odinga also, actually, people have been saying he never had a master's degree that's required for African Union Commission, which of course I never had, because I don't believe those master's degrees have ever helped to master the problem of Africa and solve our issues as a continent. But he also gave his documents for the public review. Another key issue is there has been a comrade called Comrade Morara, who actually has gone around to verify the projects being done by government, and especially was trying to analyze the stalled projects. So where the president launched a project, he goes back with his vehicle to look at that project a year after or 6 months after, and to show the people that really the projects are only being launched for photo show. The people sit together, the cameraman takes the photo that this project is being launched. After that, all the machineries goes back with the president. There's nothing being launched. And that goes over like that, or payments are being done, contractors start development, and the development do not complete. So basically it means that as a country, we are not developing. In the pretense of developing, our government spend money for the so-called projects, then after the limelight is over, contractors are paid money, and there's no project done for the people. And nobody goes back to analyze that or check that. So this young man has gone around to check all those projects, and he has realized that some have never been started, despite of money having been given out. There's a young Kenyan who has been innovative enough to open a website, an online platform, where you can track the details about all projects that were launched in Kenya, the amount that was given, the company that got the money, and where the project is currently. So those are some of the transparency mechanisms that are people trying to do in order to track the development of this country. Another thing is that the comrades from the universities were to come out in large number to support each other, to go against, or actually to protest against government new university funding model. And this model is actually discriminative, as it's tried to actually discriminate between the poor and the rich societies in this society to access education, especially for higher university learning. But unfortunately, as the young university student leaders or students who are planning to protest, the government caused a division among the student union and called the student leaders into State House to be given some money, so that they had a meeting with the president. The president dish out some money that is being said in the public just to either bribe them to keep quiet. And that is also being seen as a negative way, trying to infiltrate the protest and the unity of younger people to push forward for change. The same thing they did with the Kenyan protest that was going on. So basically, those are the key issues going on in Kenya. But in regards to Raila's candidacy, Kenyans have divided opinions. Some people feel that Raila Odinga may not fit for African Union Chairperson Commission. Some other people who are his traditional supporters feel that he is fit for that as a retirement package. So I don't know how that will affect our unification or our development as a continent, but basically is a key position that you have to look at, despite of now AU having some failures here and there. So basically that's what's going on from Kenya. Brother, greetings, Brother Sam, welcome. Kylie, let us know what's going on from South Africa, if you're able, Brother Sam.
Good evening, Brother Pigeon and everybody on the platform. Thanks. I don't have much on South Africa except that following the developments of the deputy president of the EFF leaving the EFF to join the Umkhonto weSizwe party led by former President Jacob Zuma, the EFF leadership has descended on KwaZulu-Natal this past week, and their aim is that they are going to go through the whole provinces of South Africa to find out what happened, why they lost so many votes in those areas. So this is an evaluation moment for the EFF. But in terms of the MK party, they immediately announced what they call their top 8 leaders under the leadership of Jacob Zuma. You know that the MK party went into the election without even a proper structure, leadership structure. It was just individual volunteers that did that. So this is the initial step. They've announced what they call their high command led by President Jacob Zuma. And important in that high command is that Mr. Floyd Shibambu, the former EFF deputy leader, is now the national organizer of the MK party. In terms of the GNU, all what we have seen is that this week, the President Ramaphosa and a lot of his ministers, including most of the other parties that are part of the GNU, were in Gauteng province in what they call the presidential Mbizo. These are gatherings where the president and government officials gather in an area and the local people come there to come and air their views, their complaints. And significantly, what we are seeing is as if the meeting was aimed to introduce the GNU leaders and to show the people that the GNU is a homogeneous organization that is working well and functioning well. I think the meeting went well, despite that everybody who was listening, you can hear that the president and the ministers are doing all the promises that they've been promising the people. The complaints the people are having are almost the same since these Mbizos have started. So that is the situation in South Africa. There's a big thrust now because the issue of immigration is also looming in South Africa constantly. So we have seen political parties and individual organizations are now gathering to try and make a dialogue, to try and bring all the stakeholders together to talk and discuss the issue of migration in South Africa. That's all I can say for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Brother Kwame will come later to the news and maybe we will help us maybe keep the analysis of the news again to the key purpose on the unification. And you feel free to come in or answer any question in regards to that part as well, Brother Kwame. But let me go to if you have anything, Brother Kwame, so far, you can come in maybe to seek clarification, anything like that. Before I go to Brother Simon Chibi, Brother Simon Chibi, feel most welcome from Zimbabwe, I believe. Brother Simon, are you in Zimbabwe? Okay. Comrade
Yes, I'm in Zimbabwe.
Any update
Yes,
in
I'm
Zimbabwe?
in Zimbabwe, my brother. How are you?
I'm fine. Any update from Zimbabwe so far?
Yes, my brother, Zimbabwe is quite calm now. Things are very good after hosting the SADC summit, and everything is now going well. Business is just as normal as usual in Zimbabwe, and people are quite happy. Yes, we have hardship, which are normally the order of the African people, where whatever we do, sometimes we find we are not getting enough to do whatever we want. But if you make your own choices and balance things, things will work for you and the life will go on as we continue moving forward, and also working very hard to ensure that our families, they are feeding, to ensure that the country goes on, to ensure that the peace prevail in the country as we go on. That's what I can just give as a brief from the Zimbabwean perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we'll come back to some more clarification in line to what's going on in Zimbabwe and South Africa, in line with the Africa unification. Let me get to Brother Tulo Mfolo. Brother Tulo Mfolo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much to welcome us on this August platform. Very enlightening indeed. Yes, it's Brother Tulo from South Africa, also representing the coalition, Civil Society Coalition for Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Thank you.
Oh, you're the one who is going to share the presentation?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Feel most welcome. Thank you. Brother Carrington, what's going on in Kenya and where you are? It's a pleasure to see you on Saturdays. It's very rare to have you around.
Yeah, I'm usually doing some work, but today I've decided to take a bit of a rest. I hope everyone is okay. I guess the only thing I've been trying to pay attention to the news back at home in Kenya. It seems the situation has mostly stabilized, but we have our own version of fees must fall. So the infection of the energy of the young South Africans has come to Kenya finally because of our government trying to revise the education system. Brother Pigeon might say more about that. I think intentionally to lock poor, talented students in Kenya from the university. The end result of that education proposal by the government is going to be that. So I am very resistant to it since I am part of the education system in Kenya and I have been a teacher in Kenya for a while. We are trying to see how best we can attack this issue so that students can go to school, go to university as securely as possible. Now, the government has decided to accept any students who have received admission letters because it will really trigger the downfall of the government if they were to ignore this. So they've accepted anybody to go to the university, but this is a short-term solution. And this African addiction to short-term solution to systemic problems must stop. So the students are going to go to university for one semester, but we don't know what will happen the next semester and the next year and next year but one, etc. as students are being admitted. So we have a serious problem with the education system in the country, but we are going to push until we get something favorable. I have also noticed that our former Prime Minister has finally launched his African Union chair bid. He is going to, apparently, he's going to try, this is going to be launched officially by the President, William Ruto, and the President has invited all East African heads of state to attend the launch. I think this is also a secret bid to secure the votes of all East African nations. So I'm very interested in seeing who will attend and how many will attend. And this will be an indication for whether Kenya is in trouble with regards to this bid or not. I also note that there will be a debate amongst all African Union candidates called Mjadala Africa. Mjadala is Swahili for debate. So I'm looking forward to getting more details as to that. But
Yeah,
meantime
Museveni is
also,
already out.
Museveni is out. That is good. I like that old man, except for staying in power for too long. He's normally very wise. I think people should not touch Raila's candidature. I think it should be allowed to fail. That is my personal opinion. Okay, long term, I think we need to somehow think about pushing for direct representation to the African Union. That it should be possible for Brother Pigeon to be told, go and collect at least, I don't know, 500 signatures from at least half the continent, then you stand as a candidate for the African Union chair. It should not go through our states. Our states use that as a leverage to get their man, quote unquote, as head of the African Union. And this is another form of elitism in an already very elite organization. So I think we should start thinking about how we can force these reforms through the African Union. And I'm sure this has probably been discussed in this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Com. Will come to all this news maybe with further clarification and putting them and asking maybe probably some question that can line us to us what is the goal of unification, liberation, and development. Brother Sadiki, we were in the street with Brother Sadiki in Kenya here. Of course, Brother Sadiki says that he is a kidnapped African who was in United States of America and is coming back to Africa. And he has been around in Kenya trying to do some projects. We were in the meeting some families in the slums and trying to see the program for feeding and many other things. And there's a powerful video that we'll share around on calling that the biggest thing that Africa should demand is, first of all, the continent should be calling for their stolen and kidnapped Africans to be back first. It should be the call that should be coming from the continent, rather than the people out there struggling to be back. But rather, the continent should be telling brothers and sisters, come back home, and pushing the internal so-called African states or whatever to allow our brothers outside to come freely without any condition and be given a citizenship. My brother Sadiki, happy to see you. Any update you want to share with us, maybe from the US or Kenya, anywhere you are?
Peace, family. How are you? You know, it was a pleasure being out with my Black revolutionary Pan-Africanist, my Garveyite today. It was a beautiful day. Got an opportunity to see firsthand the conditions in Kenya with our people, our family on the streets, This is what Pan-African is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about and doing Garvey. It's about going out and addressing some of the issues of our people directly. Not all the conversation, not all the meetings and discussions. You got to be on the ground to start executing some solutions to our struggle. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing that you given these courses to gain the knowledge, but with the courses also takes application. The reality check is there. Our people are out here struggling because of the lack of knowledge, and for you to have study groups like this, it's definitely the plus. To continue to enlighten our people. Yes, I am a kidnapped African looking to come home. But being welcomed by something that's going to be substantial or substantive as far as giving us some kind of citizenship to allow us to come home and build along with our people here. Bring their finances here from America or Europe or wherever we're coming from, where we're a lot more financially stable and situated, where we can uplift our continent. It's our responsibility. It's no time for us to be sitting back and watch our people continue to go through this kind of struggle. Right now, kidnapped Africans are nomad people, actually, because we don't have a home. The only home we know is of the African continent. That's our only real home. The only identification that we have is being as true Africans. We use Black interchangeably just to give us some substance of who is that we are. But I'm an African, and my Africanness needs to be brought home to help build the continent to make it a better situation than what it is.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Sister Ida? Sister Ida?
Hi,
Greetings.
sorry, I was trying to unmute. What can I say? I haven't really got anything to report. Tomorrow starts the beginning of Notting Hill Carnival in this area and all around Notting Hill and the back of it, Harrow Road. Yesterday we had a really interesting conference by the RMT Black version of it, and they had some fantastic speakers. So there were all sorts of things that were said, and I don't know, it was just really good. Anything else to tell you? Nothing really. We seem to either be starting winter or else we're just having our own little rainy season in this part of London. So that's all I got to say today. Thank you.
Sister Chisomo? Sister Chisomo?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
My today's updates as follows. I think I sent a video earlier on to say I need to discuss this. We've had all these riots going on in the United Kingdom since the young children were stabbed by a Rwandese, which has blown into anti-migrant protests by the right wing. I personally haven't seen any in this area. I think they were about to come to Scotland, but Scotland seemed to have organized itself that it did not begin. It might have, but a very, very small scale. But I keep reading that people are being attacked on the streets or at home, especially carers. I suppose they know who the carers in the area. Yesterday, a guy's car was burnt as he came out of his shift. He found his car had been burnt. Some Filipino women beaten up. So we're getting all these attacks going on against migrants, because what they're saying is we're taking their jobs. That same song, we're taking their jobs, we're taking their houses, we're taking their resources, and all sorts, simply because, like we said, the politicians do not explain why we're here and why people are coming in at their own invitation to come and work in the care industry and all these other shortage skilled jobs. So the video that the lady did, I think she was doing it from Ireland, giving her own example and other people's example, what people experience where they live, or children in schools. So it's an ongoing daily living, if you want to put it that way. You hear a remark here, you hear a comment there. Amongst people, you think maybe they understand you, but basically they don't. They'll slip in a different a kind of comment. Last Sunday, for example, last Sunday, I was in Liverpool. So we had some refugees and we went to their church. So the people I was with were all of white, because some of them had just come from Malawi on a missionary trip. So I just went and I thought, let me go and hear what their feedback is. And then we went to their church after their retreat. As soon as we came out of the car, as soon as we came out of the car, I hear there were 4 of us, one of the leaders said to me, "Oh, Grace, you've broken the rules." And I thought, what rule? "Oh, Africans are always late and you've come in early." So it's stuff like that every day. Something is said to you or something is done to you, and then you just live your life that way. So as the lady was saying, the brave ones will face them, or will respond, or will respond, or they will react, or whatever. And then I say to myself, when we're having all these discussions, like Brother Sleek is saying, we discuss and we talk and we talk and we talk, where is the action? Especially us in the diaspora, we have so many of these groups discussing and pointing fingers at our leaders in Africa and whatever is happening in Africa. And because of what happened in Africa, I suppose we're living here. And then you wonder, we talk about neocolonialism and blah, blah, but we don't quite discuss as to how we are practicing it, if you see what I mean. By being here, by just talking about it, by not going back, by not working. Of course, we're sitting here with Brother Pigeon, him telling us and us pointing and ideas and whatnot, but not actually actively involved in whatever is going there or going back to get involved. So I just wonder how then this pans out. I see the African Americans are now getting it, and there's a big, huge movement going on and an exodus happening. Some are coming to stay, some have now set home, but living in both worlds. But us as a diaspora, as an African diaspora, what exactly are we doing about it? Rather than just talking about it and studying this and neocolonialism, that is geopolitical, this and that. What are we doing about it? Are we not also doing the same thing that our leaders are doing, running to the West for rescue, for whatever, for cover, for help, for bettering our lives, thinking we can't do it back home? That's my question. The second one is just about poor Malema, what he's going through at the moment. To them, I suppose it's new. In Malawi, we are used to it, people jumping parties and going to this other one and this other one. And I don't think he should be worried about it, because if somebody has left, he was no good for you, let him go. He will regret. I don't see anything happening for him in MK. Like somebody commented to say, that's a Zulu party. He doesn't even speak Zulu. For how long is he going to communicate with them in English? So things like that. And I can't remember the third one. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you.
It was our aspirant president, who is 28. He can't run because he's 28. He needs to be 35. And previously, he had written to IMF. Whilst the Kenyans were going on about IMF, he too had written to IMF asking them why they do what they do and that Malawians are suffering as a result of it and blah, blah, blah. So he wants to sue them. So he was taken to police this week, asking him to withdraw his whatever he's trying to do. And he has refused to withdraw. So I don't know what's going to happen to him.
Okay, thank you for that update. Back to you, maybe generally now analyzing what's going on, listening to what's going on from different parts of the continent. What do you make of this in regards to our struggle for this unification of the continent, and questions you can have around maybe? Brother Kwame, come in, please.
Yeah, let's take some more news. We've got shout-outs join us. Brother Renumi has joined us. Brother Renumi hasn't been here for a while. Brother Renumi, Nigeria. What is happening in Nigeria? Yeah, so Brother Pigeon, take some more stories.
Okay.
What's happening from those who have just. Who is George? Is it George the one who will be presenting?
Yes, I'm not sure. George, I think you need to identify himself. I'm not sure if he's the one, but you have so many people in our broadcast list.
Okay.
I'll check with him.
All right. So
Okay,
yeah, let's hear
let's
from
start,
George as
brother,
well. Yeah, thanks.
brother Inumi. Let's start with you. What's going on in Nigeria? It's been long.
Yeah. Good evening, comrade.
Good evening. Good to see you, brother Inumi.
Yeah,
It's been a
it's
while.
been a while. Yes.
We missed
Yeah.
you. Brother Pigeon, remind him that we missed him.
Okay. Brother Inumi.
Yeah, it's tough for a government that we have. Tinubu's government that is dealing with us in Nigeria. So that's where, to survive has been three times difficult than it used to be under Tinubu's government. So, and still battling with a fuel price. Fuel price that used to be less than 200 naira before Tinubu is now close to 1,000 naira per liter. So and that has direct bearing on cost of living. So the major news in Nigeria now is the sad ping pong between Nigerian government and a Chinese company that is threatening to seize some of our federal assets from France to Canada and all over the place over a disputed business agreement between a certain between a particular state here in Nigeria. That the agreement was broken by one of the governors and some other things, and of course the issue of economy. So and of course political maneuvers have already started against the 2027 election. So people have started decamping, jumping new party, forming new alliances, trying to settle disputes that resulted from the last election. So all in all, the masses are suffering. So few weeks back, we had a protest against bad governance, and instead of government listening, they told us some lullaby, and then pick up a lot of protesters, lock them up. Even some people that did NSAS protests about 3 years ago, some of them are just being released this week. So the government is repressing opposition, doing everything to suppress people's voice. So we are not finding it funny right now in Nigeria. It's quite unfortunate. So okay. I will leave it at that for now.
Okay. Sister Shaza?
Yeah, greetings.
Yes, greetings, Sister Shaza.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question?
What's going on, the update from where you are?
Not much of an update, apart from, the issues, the race riots that went on a couple of weeks ago. There's still ongoing discussions about it. I think it's going to force the politicians and those in positions of power to have conversations and listen to their violent working class individuals, what is bothering them, basically, with the immigration and all the rest of it. I'm trying to think what else is there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Okay, Brother Pablo from Grenada, hope so. That's you, Brother Pablo?
Yes, it's me.
Yeah, a long time indeed. How is Grenada? What's going on down there?
Oh, well, not much really. As regards to specifically, what would you want me to speak to?
Us, we are looking at the liberation, the unification, and development of all people wherever they are. Is there anything in line to that? Is there any news that's coming in line to that?
Oh, no, actually, this is something that is very lacking in this region. I know that in recent times there has been some engagement between some of our CARICOM leaders and different certain countries in Africa. There are some movements in terms of improvement in setting up direct flights from the Caribbean region to Africa. I think they from Barbados and from Antigua there has been some arrangement in that regard. But apart from that, there's not much that I can say, you know, as regards engagement with Africa.
Okay. Any big news that has passed through your media channel? You know, you must be on. You are a journalist, so you have a lot that goes through your media channel. Anything in regards to welfare of our people there?
Anything that?
In regards to the welfare of our people there, that has passed through your news channel?
No, you know, there hasn't been anything specific in recent times. No.
Okay. Oh, welcome, brother. Thank you, brother Pablo.
Yeah, well, thank you. If there's anything that I can add, I sure will.
Okay, thank you, brother Pablo. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah,
brother Emmanuel. Brother Emmanuel, I know you're one of our presenters today, and you're from Ghana. Any update from Ghana? What's going on? What's the big news in Ghana today in regards to our liberation, our unification as a people, development in Ghana? Brother Emmanuel? Okay. Seems Emmanuel is having some issues. Okay. Let's get to Sister Chisomo before I get to Brother Kwame.
Okay. No, I just wanted to add on to the Nigerian stories. You know, the South African beauty contest, Nigerian girl. So she has now left South Africa and gone to Nigeria but she's under an invitation to go and participate on Miss Universe to represent Nigeria. And then it has now escalated to taxi drivers, a war between Nigerian taxi drivers and South African taxi drivers. Apparently, there is a system on bots. I don't know what bots is. Bots and Uber. So apparently, when you order an Uber and then it arrives and you cancel it, you don't pay for the order. The driver himself has to pay for that order. So it started with a South African driver doing it to a Nigerian Uber driver. And then when the Nigerians found out that was going on, and because their population is higher, they started doing it back on South African taxi drivers. So taxi drivers started losing their money because they keep paying for these cancelled orders. And at one point, they were ordered to one particular place, all of them just being ordered, come to this address, and all the cars were just piled there with nobody going in them. So there's that going on at the moment. And Uber was forced to withdraw its app temporarily so that people can't use it because it's causing all these problems with the system and money is being lost. So that's what's happening at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. Brother Kwame, I think now you can come in.
Have we heard from everyone?
Yes.
What about Solo Infolo?
Yeah, I think he dropped. He'll be back. He's the one who will be doing the first presentation.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Hello. Tulo.
Yes,
Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, I am Tulo from South Africa.
Tulo. Yeah, Tulo. So start getting ready to present. Is it? I know you have some slides. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So Brother Pigeon will make you a co-host, so you can share the slides. So Brother Pigeon, give him co-host status. So let's remind ourselves what the Saturdays are for. The Saturdays are for us to look around the world and to ask ourselves what is going on and how is what is going on advancing our unification, our liberation, and our development, or hindering it. Is there anything happening? Because we take the position that the unification and the liberation and development of Africa is the most important thing that must be on the table today. And that all of us Africans, wherever we are, should be talking about Africa's unification, liberation, and development. Unless and until Africa is united and strong, Africans will not respect themselves, and other people will not respect Africans. We live in a world where to be respected, you have to be strong. And when we say strong, we mean strong economically. Today, as you know, China is very well respected because of their economic strength. There was some time ago, for example, when we attended the Bandung conference, all of us were there, including the Chinese. And the Chinese were not respected. Nobody respected them. There was a time when even the Japanese were not respected. Japanese goods were a laughing stock. When you wanted to buy something from Japan, it was looked down upon. We've had these phases. They've come and gone. And we live in a world today where the black woman and the black man is still suffering from disrespect. And that disrespect stems from the fact that we are not respected because we are not strong. Okay? And unfortunately, our leaders, some say misleaders, are doing nothing about it. SADC has just met in Zimbabwe, and we were told by some of them, Museveni, for instance, saying he doesn't believe in the unification of the whole of Africa. Of course, there are some of us who also say that the Northern African countries should not be part of a united Africa, and that should only be for the sub-Saharan Africans. Forgetting that what is today the Sahara is only a phase in the way the planetary system works, and that the Sahara will become a green space again, depending on how the planetary system rotates again. It won't be a desert. It wasn't a desert thousands of years ago. It won't be a desert forever and ever. It will change again. So we have some of us saying that, well, we don't want the North Africans. Why? North Africa is part of Africa. It is still our land. And yet some people are saying we don't want them as part of the United Africa. But they are in the African Union. Anyway, putting all that aside, Museveni, for instance, says that he doesn't believe in the United Africa. Okay. So he believes in the unity of the Southern African states. Okay. Well, why don't you unite Southern Africa then? Even that, we haven't seen it. He's been in power for over 30 years, I believe. We haven't seen any unification of East Africa. You see, so it's all talk and talk and talk by our leaders. Sister Chizomo was reminding us that all we do is talk. But we don't have power, Sister Chizomo. What power do we have? What power do we have to change anything? To change things, we have to have political power, which we don't have. So I don't think it's fair to be blaming us for the state of the continent. So Africa is not uniting. Brother Atsulo, you want to say something? So the continent is not uniting, but we are saying that the unification of Africa is the most important item on the agenda today. And because we are not seeing much along those fronts, that is why we are having these Saturdays. And the purpose of the Saturdays is for us to talk to one another and then to talk to other people about the importance of unification. Now, news is important. You see, the news, by news we mean what is happening around us, what is going on the continent, in other parts of the world. How will that affect our unification and development? So that is why we have the Saturday meetings. And then in the process, we hear presentations from sisters and brothers brothers and sisters on what is going on. So today, for instance, we have our brother Thulo of South Africa, who is going to share with us a presentation on the African Continental Free Trade Area. We've heard about it, but we need to understand it and ask ourselves, how is it going to affect us? Those of you who have followed the history of the European Union are aware that England, before Boris Johnson became Prime Minister anyway, voted to leave the European Union. And those African detractors who did not believe in the Union anyway before said, you see, we told you, England has just left, the UK has just left, not the whole of the UK, but England has just voted to leave well, UK has voted to leave the European Union. Now, Scotland is not happy. Northern Ireland is, well, Northern Ireland is, well. Anyway, so they said, well, look at it. It won't work for us because it didn't work for England. Are we England? When did we become the United Kingdom? That if something doesn't work for them, then it means that we also can't do it. So anyway, so the detractors say, well, look at England. It's not working for England, therefore it can't work for us. And these are people who did not believe in it anyway, right? So we are saying that the unification of Africa is the most important item on the agenda. So that is what we need to be discussing and talking about, and we are encouraging everyone to discuss it and to talk about it. So anyway, so Brother Thulo today will share with us, and then we have to ask ourselves whether or not a free trade area by itself will advance us, bearing in mind that the reason the UK left the EU was because they did not want political union. They believe in their form of government, which is to have a monarchy. As you know, Britain is UK is a monarchy, and if there's a union, if there's political union in Europe, it means the monarchy will have to be dethroned, or it will have to be reorganized so that it has no say at all in the politics of the country. Contrary to what people say, this country is run by the crown. The government in office is a government of His Majesty. People sometimes forget that conveniently. The parliament we have do not swear allegiance to the people of the United Kingdom. They swear allegiance to the crown. All the institutions of state, like the tax authorities, the courts, all those are His Majesty's institutions. They are His private property, although they don't tell you that. And so if there's going to be a political union in Europe, it means that they will have to either abolish the crown or reorganize it or whatever. And they don't want that. They are diehard monarchists. And so that is why the UK left the European Union. Now, Africa, so Africa, the question then is, will our monarchies on the continent be prepared to have one continental government? I'm talking about the monarchies like Morocco, Swaziland, and because those are executive monarchies on the continent. There may be others, but they are the two prominent ones that I know. And so we do not have a continental government, but it's our position that we need a continental government if Africa is to move forward. You see, in fact, if you look at the news, there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening. If I share with you the news around the world, you can see that there is not much happening. The leaders are all asleep. They've gone to bed. Let me just show you this. So here is the news from Al Jazeera, if you like. Yeah, this is Al Jazeera. Look at it. Africa news: aid will enter Sudan by 2 routes. I mean, seriously? Nigeria floods kill dozens amid mounting fears over rainy season. Of course, we should be sad if people die. So, but should people be dying? You know, world's second largest diamond found in Botswana. So what? What if you have found the second largest diamond wherever in Africa? The ones that were there before, how have they benefited the people of Africa? That we should be happy because they found the biggest diamond in Botswana. I mean, these are the kind of news we are getting. Police say 20 abducted Nigerian medical students freed. Okay, it's good that they are freed, but should they have been abducted in the first place? And then, so when you go to the news, you find that there is really not much. So that is Al Jazeera. This is Reuters. Yeah, this is Reuters. So Reuters is saying what? Libya armed mobilization causes concern, UN says. But did we not know that if you overthrow Muammar Gaddafi, that Libya will be in turmoil? We've known that. So what is new there? There's nothing new there. Now look at the news. Cholera in Sudan. Why wouldn't there be cholera? There's been civil war for a while now. You know, WHO says Africa's Ivory Coast reports cases of mpox. And I mean, all we get are just nonsense. I mean, excuse my language, you know, just nonsensical stories. You know, there's nothing that should really be things that are dealing with the real issues that are facing Africans, which is that we must unite, liberate the continent, and then begin to develop the continent. On development, Brother Pigeon, you made a comment about development. Yeah, you said a gentleman has set up a website to track development projects. Yes? Brother Pigeon?
Yes, that's what I said.
Now, and you are saying that, what did he find out? Some of the things he found out, you said, were?
Projects are made, money is released, nothing goes on. There's no development at all.
Precisely. And that story is replicated across the entire continent. Take Ghana, for instance. The former president, John Mahama, his own brother got a contract from his brother's government, the president's government. He was paid a full amount of money for the contract. Did he deliver? No. Was he held to account? No. Has he been asked to pay back the money? No. The same gentleman is standing as the presidential candidate in 2024. His brother is still there. He's still going to get another contract. So this is what is happening. You know, complete nonsense across the entire continent. Anyway, let me pause there. So what we are saying is that unless and until Africa is united and strong, Africans will not be respected, including the presidents themselves. You know, we all saw how the Nigerian president, Goodluck Jonathan, the previous one, was running up the staircase to greet, to shake hands with the French president. A whole president was running like a school child up the stairs. That is, it's the whole thing is just a joke, big joke. Anyway, so this is what we are saying. And so on Saturdays, we are asking ourselves what is happening around the world, where we are, what we see. That tells us that we are moving towards unification or not. And from what I have heard today, there isn't much happening. So the question is, what must we do? And Sister Chizomo has kindly asked us that question. What must we do? Because we have to do something. So let's hear from Brother Thulo. Brother Thulo, I'm going to stop sharing. You share your screen with us and do your presentation, then we'll continue with the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much for the platform. I had earlier shared my PPT, my presentation with the Honorable, and they assured me that they shared it with you.
So do you want me to? So do you want me to do that for you?
Please do that, because I'm using an alternative device now, which I do not have the document here on this device.
Okay, let me see. Let me see if I've got it. I did open it.
Okay, and by the way, you've touched on very important issues as I was listening. You touching on also on the South African situation, because here in South Africa is also very dire. There are some immigration laws, you know, which are very adverse and very draconic and disadvantage our people from movement in the country. You know, people from the diaspora, even the African diaspora, who want to come to South Africa to settle, even for good or even for business purposes or other purposes, they find serious challenges also with the Department of Home Affairs, largely informed by the immigration laws that are administered by the Home Affairs. You know, and there's high rate of unemployment. Just recently, even we just had there's been a 2.5% increase on the previous statistics. You know, and there's also now been the government of national unity, which many commentators and political analysts have really characterized as a DA and ANC coalition, strengthening the right. You know, so you find even now there's a funding, there's a whole lot of funding of a lot of different opposition political parties funded by the same source, who want to just divide the African people. So their also strategy is to create a whole lot of different political parties which would divide on ideological perspective, so that the goal of African unity is also hard to obtain. So these are the type of things that are happening here. And in this GNU government, there's also a minister who promotes and stimulates this xenophobic attacks against the African sons and daughters. Minister Gayton Mackenzie from the Patriotic Alliance, from his party, they are the ones who go to the borders and shoot our people from Zimbabwe and other countries who are trying to come into South Africa, and label them as undocumented. You know, so these are the type of things that happen. That we need our collective effort to address. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brother. Can you imagine Africans undocumented in Africa? Anyway, Brother Sulo, your thing is on the screen. So the reason I mentioned political union is that Brother Sulo will listen to you very carefully. But the question is, like I was saying, the reason that the UK left the EU was because they didn't want political union. They were happy to be in a free trade area, but they didn't want a union. So the question is that this African continental free trade area is all very good, but I don't think that it will itself advance political union, because you can have a free trade area without a political union. So, yeah, yes, brother, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Tulompulu. I am from the Civil Society Coalition for Africa Continental Free Trade Area from the SADC platform. I am based in South Africa. And my presentation is titled From Organization of African Unity to African Union, Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Yeah, so basically by way of background, second slide, we find that it is not very hard, to understand that actually the African people had to deal with great strides because we read from Walter Rodney how Europe underdeveloped Africa, that pre-colonial trade had started the trend of disintegration of African economies and their technological impoverishment, but that colonial rule speeded up that trend. So basically meaning that even before the European colonizers got entrenched on the continent, there were some developments in the African political economy that forced the Africans to have their economies diverge and divide, mainly because the the different formations of the different empires, as we even read from the book of Chancellor Williams, how destruction of black civilization, that we actually come from one empire as a people, as an African people. We had one empire, we had one a system of governance, but that broke down over time, and we created also other alternative and smaller empires, and created these empires. That's when we looked at one another with great deal of suspicion, and we also became vulnerable to colonial attacks, and this is when we became exploited.
Oh, hello. Hi.
So in the end, you remember also the 1885 Berlin Conference, which actually divided Africa and entrenched European economic systems to the advantage of the Europeans. And since the European colonizers had actually entrenched and introduced their economic system, the pattern had not really changed, even with the formation of the OAU. But we remember that when they divided it, they turned Africa into. They said that they were dividing a magnificent cake among themselves, and said that they were dividing the cake into a British Africa, Portuguese Africa, French Africa, German Africa, Italian Africa, Belgian Africa, Spanish Africa. So this is what they did to us. So now, later on, at the dawn now of independence of Africa, at the wake of now the independence of Africa, at the second conference of independent African states, Emperor Haile Selassie, who hosted that second conference in Addis Ababa, said that the fate of our continent is no longer decided by non-Africans. The traditions of the Berlin, the entire system of colonialism are being wiped out from the continent. So even when they were being wiped out, there were still many of the challenges even at that time. That was 1960. And remember 1960, because Africa was just coming from colonialism, there were really no learning institutions. Many of the African leaders, even the example of His Excellency, the Honorable Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, also learned overseas and got some of the degrees overseas. Many of the leaders actually of Africa went and learned overseas to show that there was lack of institutional African-oriented learning institutions in Africa at the time. which were suited to empower African leaders and train African leaders to get them ready for leading Africa at the time. Yes, sir. Thanks. May we go to the next slide, please? So in terms of the importance of education of Africa, because we are now coming also from colonialism, so we need to take gradual steps because an infant cannot just begin by running. You know, an infant has to cycle first, you know, and crawl, start the first steps of walking and then run. So on the 25th of May 1963 at the OAU summit, Emperor Haile Selassie emphasizing on the education for African youth and the leaders of Africa as a solution, indicated that serious consideration should be given to the establishment of an African university. That university should be sponsored by African states, where future leaders of Africa will be trained in an atmosphere of continental brotherhood. In the atmosphere of continental brotherhood. That is what is needed. That is what all our spirits are calling for. That is what is still lacking in Africa, was called for in 1963 already by our leaders. In this African institution, the supranational aspects of African life would be emphasized and study would be directed toward the ultimate goal of complete African unity. So this institution would give us an opportunity to ventilate a lot of things as African leaders on our own without the supervision and the influence of our former colonizers. And this is what is also very vital even in this time as we are dealing with a lot of other aspects. So this was said at the formation of the OAU. Remember, apart from the objectives that are indicated in the charter, the focal points, the main focal points of the OAU was for basically political liberation, economic liberation, social liberation, and cultural and spiritual liberation, so to speak, because we've been oppressed politically, exploited economically, degraded socially, and subjugated culturally and spiritually. So the first phase, really, if one looks at it, the first phase really was the political liberation and the unity of Africans. And that was still very much a battle. And it took a long time, in fact, for the African leaders to grapple with that aspect. And you will find that even today, we're still feeling the effects of the work, the need to continue on that particular work. If you can go to the next slide, please, we'll come back to emphasize on that particular point. Okay, so the next slide. So in 1960, just before the summit of the OAU, Emperor Haile Selassie helped to headquarter the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa in Addis Ababa, in its capital. And that very same building is the one that headquartered the Organization of African Unity, the Africa Hall. So in this commission, the commission also preoccupied itself and grappled with looking at eliminating customs and trade barriers. It also preoccupied itself with actually dealing with some economic aspects. In realizing this, Emperor Haile Selassie also indicated at the Lagos Summit meeting, because he became the first chairperson of the Organization of African Unity. So he was more like the accounting official for the continent. So he indicated that the economies of the African states have too long existed as separate. So that would be from the pre-colonial time that was indicated by Dr. Walter Rodney. For too long, been separate, self-contained, isolated entities. And obviously this did not augur well for the continent. So he said African countries have for too long been forced to nurse their own economies and puzzle out their complicated problems by themselves, or else have them handled haphazardly, obviously, by the colonizers. So we either do it on our own, or we give the green light for the colonizers to do it on our behalf. So that was the message and the reality that we still face. So if we go to the next slide, please. So in 1963, that's when now the OAU Charter, which now spelled out the programs, the priority areas, the structure of the organization was being established. That was now in 1963. That was phase one, the phase of unity, political unity. And now in 2000, there was also the development of the Constitutive Act, which now gave rise to the AU, which had a particular focus now on regional integration, focusing on economic liberation aspects. And this is now the second phase of the AU. So the priority for the AU is mainly regional integration and economic integration, so to speak. So if we look at the next slide, please. What we mean by economic integration, there are different types of regional integration, as even the Honorable Kwame has also indicated earlier in his comments. And there are different types. The preferential trade area is where members now determine their own tariffs on imports from non-members. So there are members who are like an in-group who make their own determinations in terms of tariffs, after which they then impose those to non-members. And there is also a free trade area where no tariffs on imports from other members are imposed, and where members determine their own tariffs on non-members. So among ourselves who are in the same group, there are no tariffs on the imports, but on the ones who are not members of our group, then we would impose also our own tariffs. And then there's custom union, members impose common tariffs on non-members. And there's a common market where customs union allows free movement of capital and labor, means of production, across the borders of a country within the area that they deal with, or that they have a common market with. And then we have a economic union. Now the economic union is where we have a common market with a unified monetary and fiscal policies, including a common currency. I think this is what also our father, His Excellency Honorable Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, espoused and called for. So among these different options, the leaders of Africa in this time have opted for the second one, as the overarching flagship project, the free trade area. And it is actually, if you go to the next slide, it is now known as the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. It was officially signed in 2019 on the 1st of March in Kigali, Rwanda. It seeks to establish a single African market, promoting industrial development. So it covers, according to the International Labour Organization, a market of 1.3 billion people and a gross domestic product of 2.5 trillion US dollars. It already has an institutional framework being led by the Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body. There's a Council of Ministers there, obviously from the member states, the Committee of Senior Trade Officials, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, which now deals with the day-to-day basis. So currently, the agreement has been signed by 54 of 55 member states. That is 98%, and 87% of those. That is now 47 of the 54 members. They have actually ratified it. So that is basically what needs to happen. So the challenges that maybe the African people, I think, still do face, challenges which have not been resolved, can also be challenges which based on political will, because also on the day of the summit, the OAU summit, Emperor Haile Selassie I said Africans maintain different political systems. Our economies are diverse. Our social orders are rooted in differing cultures and traditions. Furthermore, no clear consensus exists on the how and what of the union which we want to achieve. Is it to be informed, federal, confederal, unitary? Is the sovereignty of the individual states to be reduced? And if so, by how much? And in what areas? On those and other questions, there is no agreement. And if we wait for agreed answers, generations hence, matters will be little advanced, while debate still lingers. And it is obvious that today, the debate still lingers about where must influence be reduced in terms of sovereignty, to what extent. There's still levels of tribalism that are being perpetuated and fueled systematically or anyhow. So these are the current challenges also that prevent. There are also divergent narratives of pessimists who want to discourage the Africans from making the investment that they need to make in their own accord. There are also others who want to influence through monies, that come maybe from the West to try and direct the direction of the African Continental Free Trade Area decisions and policies. So these are the type of things that African people must rise to and be able to avert aid that comes with strings attached. So that's why we need the African education system that will properly prepare the African leaders for this great task that is ahead, because from political union, economic union, or in fact, political independence, economic independence, socio-cultural independence, and spiritual independence. There's a lot of work still to be done. It does not only end here, but we know it is through economic wedge that they can even control us politically. So with that being said, I hope I was very brief, because I understand that Honorable Prince would also continue from where I left off. So this is where I would pause and thank the honorable members. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Brother Pigeon?
I think he has said that Honorable Emmanuel was to give a bit a review of that. Emmanuel?
Yes, thank you so much. Here I'm on the line.
Are you sharing
Yes, are
slides?
we together?
Yes. Are you sharing slides?
No, please. I just want to
no
leverage. I
Yeah,
want to
that's
leverage. Even though Honorable Tilio has taken some of the time, but I think we can still work around the time that was given to us. I want to say a warm Pan-African greetings from the Pan-Africans of Ghana here. I bring you greetings from Civil Society Coalition for Africa Continental Free Trade. I also bring you greetings from the youth and the young people of Africa. I will not go over again to what Honorable Tuliu has said. Honorable Tuliu is in charge of the CSC AfCTA Youth Platform in South Africa. He has done a very nice job. But I just want to touch a little bit on what he has already said. And then if we are going to have a part 2 or the second series that will have to do with the unification of Africa in terms of trade, then I have to share a slide probably next week so that everybody can have access to the presentation. I overheard some word when I joined the meeting, and I want to congratulate the organizers of this particular program. I think it works. This is one of the things that we need to do in order to continue with emancipation, with the fight of liberation that our forefathers, our ancestors have started. Because at times when I sit back in order to look at the way things are going on, I ask myself a question. Are we on course? Are we retrograding or are we advancing? The moderator talks about that we talk. I think it is time that we take an action. It is time for action. He also made mention that the issue of Brexit that took place in EU, that it is something that they were trying to avoid so that they can also live their own life. I want this to be very, very discursive in terms of, I want us to have time in order to ask questions concerning this particular issue of the continental free trade. Because he was saying that he's doubting if this particular initiative will assist us as a continent. But I want to say that where we have gotten to as we are talking now, that we have some green light. Let me just quickly make a little input to what Honorable Tuliu has just said before I can now maybe go through one or two things and then I will step down for question and answer. There's a correction that I want to correct in terms of when the agreement was being signed in Kigali. Rather, it was 2018, 21st March 2018, and not 2019. It was on the 2019 on September here at Accra Conference Center that we based the coalition of the civil society to promote the implementation of AfCTA. So please, let's take note of the dates, that it was on 2018, on the 21st of March, that we had all the member states as at that time that first signed into law, agreed in order to have a single continental free trade market whereby we can trade among ourselves. Now looking at the question, when I got the invitation, I was thinking, sorry, I know that everybody has seen my name at the flyer. I'm Dr. E.V. Brown, the CEO of the Civil Society Coalition for AfCTA. It's a consortium of NGO, that is non-governmental organization, community-based organization, the media, academias, and other people from the diaspora. So we are coming together as a coalition of the CSO, in quotes, in order to promote and advocate for the implementation of Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And this was officially launched by God's grace recently, not quite long, but we have been in existence for some time now. So I just want to go through what I have here from my lecture note, and then I will open the forum for questions and for answers. The first thing I just want us in order to understand if AfCTA will be possible or will not be possible is that I will love us in order to look at the issue of how many countries are involved in this particular initiative or this particular intervention that the AU are trying to solve. Out of the 55, we have 54 has already signed the agreement. After signing the agreement, as at last year, we had 47 that have rectified and submitted their instrument to the AU. And we also have a very important fact that we need to understand about this CSC AfCTA. We need to understand, compared to other continental free trade areas, can we make it as an African? Based on the information and the fact that we have now, AfCFTA is the largest among all the free trade areas compared to other places around the world. I still want us to understand if it will be possible for us in order to go ahead with AfCTA, one single market in the whole of Africa. Because looking at the population that we have in Africa, which amounts to 1.3 billion, will that be possible for us to trade among ourselves, even though other people have gone far, like 60% or so, and then we are just less than 20% in Africa trading among ourselves? But is it going to be possible? Because part of the things that we do in civil society for AfCTA is to take stock. We do stock taking. This is one of the pillars that is holding the coalition, stock taking. So when I saw the organizers talking about what is going on, the unification and all these things that we need to remind ourselves and then also remind other people, I was saying that this is good. The organizers are trying to take stock of where our fathers and where our forefathers stopped. So looking at the population, I still want us, in order to look at our GDP and then also forecast in the next couple of 11 years, will there be any hope after continental free trade Africa among ourselves? Will it bring any results? Is there any benefit for us in order to leverage, for us in order to use? So looking at our GDP, which is about 3.4 trillion US dollars, and then what AfCTA is going to bring on board, if at all, the policies, the regulations, and then every other things are on course. So these are the things that I want us in order to have a look, so that when the time for question and answer Q&A comes, we can now look at it critically, if at all there is any benefit or there is any opportunity, or if there is any green light for us to trade among ourselves. Now, looking at my presentation in the area of trying to balance the Pan-Africanism with what is going on now in the area of trade, I will quickly want to share this with us. Probably next week, I will submit it to the organizers so that they can now maybe share it with everybody. There might be somebody in this particular class that may not understand what is AfCFTA. AfCFTA is an acronym of Africa Continental Free Trade Area. That is the acronym. And that AF is Africa, but the letter F is just a small letter. So now, what is AfCTA? How do we understand and what does it mean? Because from the invite that I got was that I have to throw more light on some of these things so that our fellow brothers from the EAC, our fellow compatriots, our fellow laborers from Kenya can have a good understanding about AfCFTA. So now, what is AfCFTA?
Sorry, presenter, and our sisters as well, please. Thank you.
Respect to our sisters. Not only our brethren, but our sisters also should have and understanding about AfCFTA, that is Africa Continental Free Trade, which we are the body, the civil society body that is promoting and advocating also for the implementation of it, for it in order to take the due effect or due process the way it's supposed to be. Now, looking at the full meaning of it, the role of National Coordination Office, because every member state across Africa need to have an office that is called the National AfCTA Coordination Office. So Kenya, one is there. Rwanda, one is there. Looking at Malawi, Zimbabwe, all the SADC, EAC, ECOWAS, every member state must have a National AfCTA Coordination Office. And this is where everything takes place. And this AfCTA office, depending on the member state, a lot of it is tied up to Ministry of Trade and Industry. Like Ghana here, they are like an agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. So they work hand in hand and they take informations and then instructions from the Ministry of Trade. That is the AfCTA office in all the countries. This is a topic of itself that we need to understand so that when we engage like SMEs, like entrepreneurs, like maybe you are in the private sector, so that we can understand exactly what AfCTA is bringing on board, the advantages and the disadvantages, the opportunities, and then other things that we can leverage on. Because I believe if our forefathers saw the light, thank God that we are all promoting the ideology of Kwame, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. He was the person that had this idea, how Africa can trade together, how Africa can come together and everything. He was talking about this unity. So I'm very happy that our brethren, our sisters from the other part of the world are still on course. We here in Ghana, we are not left behind. No, 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 no. You can check some of my speeches at the online or maybe any other place. This is one of my role models that I quote in some of my speeches and my remarks in programs as a Pan-African. So I want to thank you all. So looking at this, I want us in order to look at also, after considering the African Continental Free Trade as the largest free trade area in the world, with 54 countries on course. I think there is no continental trade area that has up to 54 like what we have. Now, what are the key objectives? So that we can measure, we can use this to measure if at all this initiative will help us as individual or as a continent. So one of the objectives is to create a single market for goods and services. Many people here in Africa, they are still getting things from EU and from other places, but why can't we see how we can do this among ourselves? Some has the raw material and some have the finishing one. So why can't we do this? So another key objectives I want us to know, if it is possible, is to promote intra-African trade and economic integrations to enhance competitiveness at the industry and the enterprise level. So these are some of the objectives that AfCTA is looking at. Now, looking at, in terms of the importance, I want to look at the economic growth. Maybe after this, I can run up for questions, and any questions, we can now take it up from there. Now, looking at the economic growth, is there any hope concerning this initiative of African Union called AfCTA? The economic growth is being projected, as I said, to boost Africa's GDP by 450 billion in the next couple of years to come now. 450 billion USD. At least maybe by 2035. Is that something that we have to key in? Is it something, because I have a slogan that I normally say, you can also pick it up in some of my speeches. We are all involved, in quotes. We are all involved. If AfCTA is good, we are involved. If AfCTA is not good, we are all involved, because this is our thing. This is our own. So we have to look at it and see a way if we can do something in order to make it the way it's supposed to be. So please, let us try and then consider this as we move on in this particular class. So another thing, the last thing I want to talk about here is that in the next couple of years, under the economic growth, AfCTA is aiming in order to lift up some people from extreme poverty. We are all aware of the poverty level that is going on in Africa. Poverty is too much. It's not only in the issue of hunger or famine. You see the way people behave, their attitude, behavior, their mindset. You will know that this one is just poverty, frustration, psychologically, depressions, a lot of things, mental problems. All these things are as a result of poverty. So if we leverage on this AfCTA, is it true that it can lift up this amount of people out of extreme poverty? Yes. So please, I want to rest here. There are a lot of things. I will send some presentation across to the organizers, maybe in the course of the week or by next week, to share with us so that we can now have more understanding on the basis before you even start trading. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your audience. Thank you for your patience, because we have taken time more a little bit compared to what they gave to us. Thank you, and stay blessed.
Yeah, Honorable Emmanuel Brown, are you an MP?
Oh my goodness.
The word honorable, hence I ask you.
Yes, I have been involved in a legislative program since 2010. So, but I'm not partisan. I'm non-partisan because for now I am a social worker.
Okay, I don't quite understand what you mean, but thank you.
It is well.
Thank you. So you are based in Ghana?
Yes,
correct?
please. Yes, please.
If you don't mind me asking, your accent sounds Nigerian.
Yes.
Okay.
A bona fide son of Nigeria.
Yes, but a son of Ghana as well.
I reserve my comment. I reserve my comment.
Thank you. So
you're welcome.
Thank you, brother Brown, for your comments, and before that, brother Tulo, for your comment. We take it that you are now part of us, and that going forward you will also be, in terms of the African Free Trade Area, you will be the experts that we shall call upon when we need help. For our Thursday meetings, we have Brother Carrington here, and he is by profession a physicist, and he is our resident physicist for our Thursday meetings, where when we are stuck with questions of physical theory, in terms of its relationship with the philosophy and ideology of progressive Pan-Africanism, he is the one that helps us to unravel it. So we hope that you, Brother Tulo, I don't know if you are still here, and Brother Emmanuel, that you will be you will be our experts, our resident experts when it comes to the free trade area and the unification matters. So we'll open the floor for comments, for questions to the brothers, and for any contributions. Brother Pigeon will chair this part of the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, brother, for your comment, your contribution, and in fact your presentation. We do appreciate this so much. So let me start with Brother Carrington.
That was fast. Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much, brothers, for your presentation. This has been a wonderful presentation, and I am deeply interested in this because I am part of Africans Rising. We've been trying to collect signatures. Some of you might have to try to talk to the African Union and various governments to sign the African Union Protocol on Free Movement. So the Continental Free Trade Area, as you have correctly pointed out, is exactly in our interest. as citizens of the continent. And if it will fail, it will not be the African Union that has failed, it will be us, Africans, who have failed to pressure our governments to not just ratify, which they have majorly, but to also implement and take seriously the recommendations, principles, and implementations of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. I have a question and a comment. I guess I will start with the comment. My suspicion is that while this is a very good, and I have read the documents, this is a very good approach to ensure a continental free trade area through regulations as given, as specified by the document. Another way of operationalizing it would be to convince members of the East African community, members of SADC, members of ECOWAS, and members of the Maghreb in North Africa to try and learn how to trade with each other. We have had these basically moribund organizations with us, and we could now weaponize them to implement the Continental Free Trade Area. That is, countries, for example, in the East African community can trade with each other under the protocol of the Continental Free Trade Area. And I'm sure there are these discussions that are going on. I think the headquarters of the Continental Free Trade Area is in Ghana. There are these discussions going on in Ghana, in Accra as we speak, but I would like to know more about how regional blocks can be used to the service of the Preferential Free Trade Area Agreement. Just as a data point, Museveni did come to Kenya to ensure that, to remove the friction that was there between Kenya and Uganda. Uganda had banned certain exports from Kenya, and the president had to come to Nairobi so that the two men can sit down and agree. Now, we would want this to be structured. What happens when Museveni retires and Ruto retires, right? What will happen then? And they're going to retire soon. What will happen then? So we want structures that are not dependent on the charisma, on the kindness or unkindness or vision or lack thereof of our political leaders. So how do we institutionalize and strengthen this reform? I guess this is a question for all Africans.
Thank you. Let me go. Okay, finish.
Oh, sorry. Let me now reduce the speech. Second question quickly. How does this then fit in with the Continental Protocol on Free Movement? Because the Continental Free Trade Area, as I understand it, does not apply purely to goods, but also applies to services. And therefore, it means people providing services should ideally be covered by the Continental Free Trade Area. But I guess it would help if it was covered better by the Protocol on Free Movement. And then third, what stories does the Continental Free Trade Area say about manufacturing? I am aware that there is a guided trade initiative integrating, the one I know was Kenya and Ghana. So there was Kenyan tea, which was sent to Ghana, and Ghanaian chocolate, I believe, which was brought to Kenya. What stories does it say about differentiation and specialization of regional economic blocks so that each manufacturer specializes in manufacture a set of goods which we can then trade with each other? Does it have structure with regards to that? Thank you.
Brother Carrington, you have given your contribution beyond physics to economics, and I do appreciate that. Thank you. Sister Ida, get your question. I'll come back with my one question before we get to the presenters.
I wanted to ask if the presenters had heard that last week there seemed to have been a big conference on for Eastern and Southern African Common Market, which I hadn't heard about, but it happened last week, and I did get to hear some of it. But the thing is, I don't think that the ordinary person knows enough about the African free trade, and it seems to be it seems to be a big thing in East Africa. And I was surprised to hear Brother Carrington say that the headquarters was in Ghana. I know that people can exchange goods somehow and they pay the same money as they would in their country. But it's I think that's it's got a long way to go to telling the public what's going on with African free trade. Thank you.
Okay, my one question before I get to the presenters. Trade has to work with standards. I am, of course, a member of various WTO and national standard for trade and technical barriers to trade. And one of technical barriers to trade is what we have non-technical barriers to trade and technical barriers to trade. I know we are developing what you call Africa Regional Standard Body, because trade and every good that are being traded must have a standard of accreditation. Have we developed a standard for accreditation? For example, there's what you call risk management, risk approach and hazard-based approach. For you to manufacture tea and have a label of qualification, we must have a continental label of standardization. And then a good that has that standard can be allowed to travel or be allowed to be traded across the continent. But if you don't have that, for example, water from Kenya is being put in a bottle of 500 millimeter ml. But in Ethiopia, all their products are in 300 ml. So if you have a water from Kenya in 500 ml, you reach the border, you have to break that water into 300 ml and repack it again to get it to Ethiopia. Are these issues having any platform to be organized so that you have a regional standard for all goods that then will not be a technical barrier to trade as much as the market will be there? Brother Kwame, back to you if you can guide on this. We have some few minutes to go.
Brother, continue. Throw it to the presenters.
Okay, presenters, any of you want to answer some of the questions you have asked, please feel free to come in.
Okay, thank you so much for those questions. Honorable Chilu, are you going to pick one or should I proceed?
All right, I may as well just pick one or two, and then you will also respond to others.
Please
all right.
proceed.
Okay. In terms of the conference of the Eastern and Southern Africa on the common market, we will follow up on that since it happened last week. I still have not been aware, but I will follow up on that and get to the discussion again, revisit the discussion again. In terms of the public, which may not necessarily be familiar with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, I think that is very, very true. And I think it also offers an opportunity for the business community and civil society to see what it can do to bridge the gap in terms of even road shows that can be initiated and networks, working relations that can be established with the Secretariat of the Continental Free Trade Area and other civil society organizations which may already be in existence. So in terms of the free movement protocol, we know that the protocol was adopted where now people can move without visas. That was even in 2020, that was already done. So in terms of the success stories, I think in terms of the manufacturing sector, I'm not aware. And if there is no capacity, maybe in some regions, I think what needs to be done is to build the capacity because the protocols have already been adopted. And in some industries as well, there has been some success stories. So I will give Honorable Prince maybe to respond to some of the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Tiliu, and then all our fellow brethren that have just asked the question. Listening to the questions, to me, the questions is correlated, and I can now get an understanding why this invite came, so that we can share things that has to do with AfCTA with EAC and then Kenya in particular, because all the question tilts towards the issue of the bloc, the EAC, and not necessarily per se Kenya as a whole. So what I'm going to say is that in a short answer, the two, EAC is a bloc that has its own particular trading protocols. There are things that has to do with the Eastern Africa community, likewise SADC, likewise ECOWAS, and then other sub-regional bodies in Africa. But what happened is that since this one is governed by some protocol defining the conditions of trade in terms of the EAC, the same thing is applicable to AfCTA. It's only that we are looking at how AfCTA can be fully functional, so that all the member states that are stakeholders can now feel to the superior, which is the AfCTA, so that when we are looking at this, we can now talk about the rules of origins that comes from the AfCTA side, because as a sub-regional body, EAC, East Africa, like others, they also have different protocols that govern them. They have their own rules of origins and tariff schedules in terms of their trading. But in terms of AfCTA, what makes it different is that at the AfCTA level, there is something that we call system for dispute settlement, which is not the case in terms of other sub-regional body. And this particular system is there, so that if there is any problem between either the sub-region or the member state, at the AfCTA level, this can take care of it. So in a nutshell, what we are looking at is that we have the sub-regional, we have the power of attorney. The last time we met with His Excellency, the Secretary General of AfCTA, which was represented by his Chief of Staff, before we had our program in March this year, what we were being told and we were being informed in Ghana here was that what AfCTA is doing, they take instructions and informations from the AU. And then another way that they also go ahead doing their things is that pay member states. Like now, Kenya has their own trade policy, things that has to do with Kenya. But at the same time, AfCTA policy is also there. So what we are trying to do in AfCTA in terms of the implementation is to see how we can marry the two together. And then if there is any problem in terms of the two, we can now see how we can settle it through the system that AU has put in place in AfCTA, which is called the System for Dispute Settlement. Let me quickly also touch on another question that somebody asked in terms of the issue of the trading. I want to say that as I am talking now, about 63 enterprises are being facilitated into the East African market under AfCTA. And this was even as of 2023. Yes, 63 enterprises. So this is part of what is going on in AfCTA in Ghana here. I remember early this year that under the EAC, that Ghana had an expo. They had a program which they went with some goods and some products to Tanzania. So these are part of the things that give us like a sort of hope that what we are chasing, that there is hope and it will definitely come to stay. Another thing I also want to talk about is that looking at what somebody was asking about the standard, it is something that the AfCTA himself, they are working on this to make sure that whatever policies that every state has is in terms of trade, that so far it does not go against the continental trade policy, that they are going to align together and they are going to marry together in terms of standard, so that it will not be a different standard from here and it will not be also a different standard from this other side. So that is why we are having all these policies and all these protocols on this and protocols on that, in order to make sure that we have an arranged and organized body of trading system in AfCTA.
Okay, Brother Pablo, he dropped. Thank you for that response. Brother Pablo, I wanted to give you just a minute if you could say something.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. Remember early on, I did mention that there are some things happening. I just didn't have the details adequate in my head. The thing about it is there's been some very serious conversations taking place between our CARICOM leaders and African leaders. Our Prime Minister, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, he attended the third Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum earlier this year. And he also eulogized Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and participated in a laying ceremony there. I did mention about air travel. Presently, our regional airline, known as LIAT, there is a reconstruct that has taken place. In fact, LIAT, the original airline went out of business, and there is a new airline service that has come on stream recently, and it's presently it's a partnership actually between an African airline, AirPeace. Yeah, AirPeace is owned. It was founded in 2013 by a Nigerian lawyer and businessman, Allen Onyema. Yeah, and so presently our regional airline is a partnership between one of our islands, Antigua, and this this African airline, AirPeace. Okay. In addition to that, that same AirPeace has done a direct flight from Africa. I believe it was from Ghana to the Caribbean, and they are looking at starting direct flights in earnest sometime later this year. Even in the Barbados Parliament, sometime just earlier this year too, there was some talk about beginning to have direct flights from Ghana to Barbados. So there is some serious effort in that regard taking place, and it's mostly to do with air travel and connectivity in terms of tourism and that kind of thing. So there is some serious movements in that regard. I will be putting some links in the chat so that you can follow it up and see the kind of conversation that's taking place.
Yes, you can share them directly also with me. Brother Kwame, back to you.
Okay, sorry to cut moderator. Just to add to that, he is talking about the airline. Looking at in terms of the water, sometimes ago here in Ghana, there is a certain person from the private sector that was also trying to work out some memorandum of understanding in terms of the water, to see how everything that has to do with the issue of passing through the water, that is I don't want to mention the name, maybe until when everything is perfect. Then I will also share his name so that we can also understand that the air and the water and then probably other means of transportation is being looked into.
Brother Brown, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about goods that pass through the water, the ships, and then every other, the same way he's talking about like the air.
Right.
So all these things are put in place. I think there is hope concerning AfCTA. Thank you.
Thank you too. Brother Pablo, thank you for the airline information and CARICOM. And if you can continue to attend our Saturdays and share CARICOM stories, that would be great. We have another brother, Brother Joseph. He's based in Grenada, and he also joins us twice anyway from time to time. Brothers and sisters, as we say, all good things come to an end. And it's been a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, a wonderful afternoon, wherever you are. And unfortunately, we have come to the end of the session. It's 9:04 GMT London time. We normally finish at 9 o'clock exactly. So thank you for coming. I would say that I hope I can confidently say that Brother Stulo and Brother Brown will be a more permanent feature of our Saturdays, and I think we are going to be hearing more from them in the future on aspects of the free trade area. As you would have noticed, we are calling for the fourth one, the economic union. The free trade area is great. I think it's a good starting point, and it's a good thing that offices have been set up in all the 54 to 55 neo-colonial territories at the moment. That sounds very great. It's a good place to start, and who knows, they may be the basis for us to roll out what we ultimately, as followers of Osagifo to the Kwame Nkrumah want, which is we want a customs union, not just a customs union. We want also a single continental government. That is what we want. Nothing short of that will please us. So, as I was saying, hopefully, I think it's more than hope. Brothers Brown and brother Tulo will be Ghana and South Africa. What an interesting combination! will be permanent feature. will be a permanent feature of our Saturdays and share more and more with us. With that, thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful night, a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, wherever you are, and have a great day, a great time. Remember, we meet on Thursdays, yes, for our philosophy class, which is also in this same space. So if you can, Brother Pigeon will be sharing the link later, as he always does. Also, he also shares the poster about Saturday. He invites our. So if you are able to, please join us on Thursday for our class on philosophy and ideology. Thank you all very much.